My name is Camela Guevara. I'm a fiber artist, and I'm going to talk about fiber art as resistance. Fiber art can include sewing, weaving, and embroidery, and in my own work, I seek to honor invisible economies of low-wage work and homemaking by crafting handmade monuments to unsung labor in a modern aesthetic. So why fiber art? Fiber artists are resourceful, using what is at hand. The work is accessible, as we all have connections to cloth, and it's therapeutic. It's meditative to create artwork that really packs a punch and is really fun to see. I first became aware of the potential of embroidery seeing Jenny Hart's unicorn pattern in Bust magazine in the early 2000s. She's credited with starting the modern embroidery movement, and it came to me at a perfect time. I was an awkward brown girl living in North Charleston, and I really found myself through handwork and sewing. So Sublime Stitching, they have patterns that are unlike the old-timey tea towels that you might think of when you think of embroidery. They also have a lot of tools and resources. And Jenny Hart is a prolific embroidery artist who's inspired in teaching and inspiring embroiderers like me, an art form that's both inexpensive and with readily available materials. Lauren DiCioccio, I first became aware of her work at Art Basel, and I was blown away by her use of ordinary disposable objects in thread and organza. The combination of subject matter with an obsolete and time-consuming work is an interesting way to explore why we discard things and our relationship to them. After the election and the Women's March in 2017, she requested folks protest signs and embroidered them on a small scale. Mine is included here, the We Are Watching sign. And if the hashtag, the resistance will be embroidered, is a great way to see more of these tiny signs of the times. She also created a paper fabric kit that you can embroider letters to your representative. And I love this idea because embroidery takes a lot of time and it really demonstrates how much an issue matters to you. It would be really unique in a pile of letters, but it's not an excuse not to contact your representative. You should continue to do that, call even if it's not embroidered. Next artist I want to talk about is Aram Han Cifuentes. She started making protest banners in her apartment and began inviting people to join and create community around that, and eventually led workshops for people who maybe can attend protests like mothers or non-citizens. And the banners include Black Lives Matter, Water is Life, etc. She also created a protest banner lending library where people could check out these beautiful banners and return them after use. This is like really thoughtful and also kind of funny, but kind of depressing when you think about how much more work needs to be done to ensure that people have the basic rights are being met. The next artist I want to show you is Hannah Hill. On Instagram, she's known as Hanecdote. She's 23 years old and lives in London. Her work explores gender, sexuality, mixed ethnicity, feminism, and mental illness. And I love her work because it's accessible and it's just embroidering ephemera from her everyday life. I love to show this to young people that I teach because it shows the possibility for imagery that's personal and unapologetic. And she created this great Arthur Fist meme combining handwork and internet culture, which I think is so cool to introduce that to the medium to a whole new generation. And it's just so raw and vital. So the next thing is the arpilleras of Chile. In 1973, Salvador Allende was overthrown by Augusto Pinochet in a US-backed coup d'etat. This was a really violent time, and a lot of people went missing. And church organizations that opposed the regime worked to support Chileans, which were predominantly women whose families were torn apart. And they created these hand-embroidered works to commemorate loved ones, bring attention to the repressive politics, and support themselves monetarily. So a lot of them were made out of burlap sacks and scraps of fabric from the disappeared family members, and they were easy to transport in a purse, so you didn't have to worry about being caught with politically subversive work, and are really powerful graphic testaments to the struggle, and also therapeutic to make and grieve in community. So I've been teaching embroidery for about 5 years now. I started at Spacecraft Studios in 2013, which was a DIY space in West Ashley. I don't know if anyone remembers that. It's amazing to share what I've learned, and this is a sampler that I designed and a screen print to teach embroidery stitches. I've taught at Girls Rock Camp, which is now the Carolina Youth Action Project, of which I'm a board member. And I also got to teach at the after-school program, and it's really fun sharing embroidery with youth because that's when I started, and it's so cool to see what they do with it, and it's so great. This is my chance to talk about the Carolina Youth Action Project. It's a grassroots nonprofit that uses music as a vehicle for social change and builds power among girls, transgender, and gender nonconforming youth. So support us. Our after-school program is the only community-based alternative to incarceration in South Carolina, and our showcase will be here later in June, so come to that for sure. So here's some work created in the after-school program. The first uses words of Janelle Monáe, and the second one commemorates lives lost due to police brutality. This mirrors the Arpilleras of Chile in commemorating, honoring the lives of Rekia Boyd, Michael Brown, Walter Scott, and Shelley Frey. I think it's really powerful. And this year, I'm the North Charleston Artist in Residence, where I get to share my passion for embroidery in schools and retirement homes all over North Charleston. It's really cool to show kids how to thread a needle, how to stitch a basic design, and kind of sneak in hand sewing, which I think of as a life skill. It's a really cool thing to include. And at North Charleston Creative Arts Elementary, I got to do an embroidery lesson with first graders where I showed them, they took simple designs and they embroidered them, and I made them into a quilt, which was on display at the North Charleston Arts Festival, and I'm really proud of their work and their willingness to try something new. So thanks for letting me share about my passion about fiber arts with a social justice theme. And I hope that you'll see the power in handmade objects and when people take the time to make something really beautiful, or when people take time to make sure everyone has access to what they need. And as artists, we just have such a platform to bring awareness to injustice in our world, and that makes me really excited. So, thanks.